Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the movie Saturday Night. I really enjoyed this movie. It's taken me a little while to kind of digest it and figure out how I'm going to do this review. But that being said, let's dive into this, shall we?
Modern Movie Review.
So I am going to go ahead and issue a spoiler warning for this movie. I don't think that this is a movie that by any means could be ruined via spoilers, but that being said, I like to issue one anyways in case you were planning on maybe watching this movie tonight or soon. Maybe come back and watch this video later, but that being said, we're going to dive right into this. I really enjoyed this movie. I think that for the most part, this movie was the majority, it was what I was expecting it to be. This movie has definitely done a really good job of advertising. Like, it's not Saturday Night Live. It is what's going on before the first ever Saturday Night Live. This movie is a period piece, and I think that they do a really good job of kind of creating that like 70s aesthetic. I really enjoy the practical sets in this movie. They are constantly moving around from like this stage, and then they're moving around to like this music room, to like this backstage thing, to like the control room, to there's practically on an elevator all the time, and it's just all of these different people rushing around the entire movie. It does a really good job of creating this pace and this adrenaline and this anxiety, and the whole point of this movie is it's 90 minutes, and it's supposed to be around 90 minutes, and they are constantly building up the fact that they have to hurry up and get all these different things done. They have a giant checklist, a to-do list of things that they need to do. This is the very first show. If this show does not go well, they will not be renewed, and they will not be coming back next week. Their jobs, their careers, everything that they have done in their lives have led them to this moment, and they really need to succeed. And they do a really good job of creating that ticking time clock. In this movie, Gabriel LaBelle is the focal character we follow throughout the entire movie. It's Lorne Michaels, and he's absolutely incredible in this role. I think that Gabriel LaBelle is going to be a huge star come 2 or 3 years from now. In my opinion, he's in two of my favorite movies that have released this year, because he was in the movie Snack Shack that released earlier this year, which I cannot stop raving about. In my opinion, it is still my number 2 ranked movie of the year. I loved that movie a lot. I think that it was an incredible coming-of-age movie. And then he was in this movie, which I haven't ranked it yet, but I feel like it is probably going to crack my top 10. One thing that I specifically like about this movie is it feels like the kind of movie where you could rewatch this movie probably 3 or 4 times, and there will be different things that you'll catch the first, different times, because this movie does a really good job with having long takes. They have a lot of sequences that feel like they're one-shots. There's a lot of sequences where, we'll follow a character down an entire hallway. He'll go through every single door. He'll go through every single, changing rooms. He'll go through, oh, this is somebody's private room. Hey, he'll knock on the door, have a conversation with them, and we'll just follow them throughout this entire floor. And it feels like it's a one-shot. Obviously, there will probably be moments where they, secretly cut it and, kept going. But for the most part, every single sequence feels like you were actually physically there in the room with them. This is the most locked into a movie I feel like I've ever been, because from the start, from the get-go, you're immediately met with Lorne Michaels, who's pacing around outside before the show starts, and he's having a conversation with the guy who's trying to hand out the free tickets, and they're setting up the vibes that, this show is not expected to do very well, because they're giving out free tickets and people are still not caring about what this show is. And I think that that's a fun through line throughout this movie. People are constantly asking Lorne Michaels what the show is, and he's like, it's Saturday Night Live. It's a really cool show. It's going to be revolutionary. It's going to be really cool. And he's using a bunch of these fluff words to kind of make it this is going to be a really good really good show. I don't know why you guys are doubting me so much. And he never really fully addresses what this show is supposed to be. People would refer to it as sketch comedy, and he's like, it's not just sketch comedy. Or people would refer to it as, oh, it's a little comedy session with some music bits in between. And he's just it's not that either. And he's very passionate about this show is my vision, it's this thing, and they're like, cool, what's your vision? And he's like, you'll know it when you'll see it. And basically, he's just so optimistic. And I love the character archetype of a showman who really has this huge vision and has this really thought out huge world in his mind of this is what this is going to look like. It's going to be beautiful. Everyone is going to love it. They just don't know it yet. And he's very passionate in this role. I think that it's an incredible character, and throughout this movie, he goes through a lot of different emotional stakes. He's constantly panicking. There's multiple sequences where he actually seems like he's going to have a panic attack, and I like the way that they really build the tension of he's stressed. He has way too much stuff on his plate. Every single time he has to deal with some problem or something that is going wrong, somebody will walk into the room, hey, Mr. Michaels, they need you over here, or hey, Mr. Michaels, they need you over there, and he's constantly moving from scene to scene to scene to scene, and I love how much this movie, to a lot of people, it probably feels rushed. And honestly, if I was to be honest, part of the reason I haven't reviewed this immediately was because there was a lot of things happening at once that I had to kind of rethink about certain sequences and be why did it play out like this? And like I said, this is a movie that will probably do better on rewatch, because there's constantly so much happening that there's definitely stuff you're going to miss the first time you watch this movie. There are going to be jokes and there's going to be innuendos, and since a lot of these things are filmed in one take, there's a lot of sequences where like the entire cast is on set, but you're obviously focusing on whoever's talking in the scene, and there's probably a lot of really funny comedic bits that are going on in the background that you just completely miss because you're focused in on a specific part of the scene. And I know that I'm probably personally going to go rewatch this movie at least once before it leaves theaters because there's just so much to unpack in this movie. I think that all of the physical sets are beautiful. I think that a lot of the comedic aspects, for the most part, don't necessarily hit as well as you would expect them to. It is a movie about Saturday Night Live, but it takes place in the 70s, so they have a lot of jokes that, like, are kind of outdated. They're not necessarily like, oh, that joke's offensive, you can't say that nowadays. It's more or less just like the same joke has been said to death. So there's some comedic moments where you're like, yeah, I don't know. That being said, there are a lot of specific characters that I like every single time they're on screen. They're fantastic. The character John, I can't remember the name, his last name right now, but I think it's like Belushi or something like that. John Belushi. Every single time he's on screen, he's so interesting to watch. He's such like a loose cannon. You don't know what he's going to do, and I think that that's really entertaining. The person who played Chevy Chase, absolutely fantastic. He's so good in this. He's so charismatic. He's incredibly funny. The way that he speaks is so fluent. The way that he's constantly making jokes that actually stick the landing almost every single time. I think that he's one of the only characters throughout the time span of this movie where every single joke that they make actually like landed with me, which kind of pissed me off because it's Chevy Chase. And I do think that that's something about this movie that kind of irks me a lot is for people who do not know, Chevy Chase, very, very shitty person. And like there's a monologue in this movie which you can tell is probably written in for people who are going to be like, wow, I left the movie and my favorite character was Chevy Chase. But there's a monologue where like one of the older guys is just like, you know what your future is going to look like? And he's like, you're going to get really famous. You're going to get a little too famous. And then you're going to have a fun little time with alcoholism. And then your wife is going to leave you. And everyone is going to leave you. And then you're going to have a bunch of friends and a bunch of company who you have to pay for them to actually spend time with you. And you're going to be so miserable and lonely. And you're going to end up dying alone. And there's just a super long monologue that is said to Chevy Chase. And Chevy Chase, you know, character is like young and hot. So he's just like, can't wait. But that being said, a lot of bad things happen to Chevy Chase's character throughout this movie, and then the like big finale or whatever, he has like his moment to shine, and it's like a moment where you're like, hell yeah, go Chevy Chase, and I'm like, that's Chevy, at the end of the day, that's Chevy Chase though. So I liked the character, but remembering that that is a real person kind of like ruins it a little bit, because it's like, this is a great character and I would love this character, but it's Chevy Chase. That being said, the actor did a really good job. There's obviously a lot of moments where he is arrogant and he is what you would expect him to be, because if you know anything about Chevy Chase, not a very great dude. But what's it called? I think that the actor who portrayed him did a really, really great job. I think that he was very charismatic. I would love to see him in more roles. Specifically, something that came out of this that I'm only going to talk about because I'm currently sitting at my desk and I currently have some X-Men related stuff here. A lot of people have been saying that the actor who plays John Belushi, I'm going to throw a picture of him up on the screen, would be a great casting for Wolverine because he's actually relatively short and he's got nice facial hair or whatever, and he actually does a really good job of playing pissed off because his character is constantly pissed off in this. And I 100% agree with that, but I also want to say that the actor who played Chevy Chase would totally do a really good job as Cyclops, because there's a scene where they fight each other and they go head to head, and John is, you know, down here looking up at him, and then Chevy Chase's character is looking down at him and like smiling at him very ruggedly, and I'm literally like, this literally looks like Wolverine and Cyclops, and it literally looks like they're about to fight. This is so cool. And I absolutely love that. Another thing, if I'm bringing up X-Men characters, the actress Rachel Senoit, I probably butchered the frick out of that. I am so sorry. But the actress who kind of plays like the glue who's holding the entire team together, the person who's the writer for SNL, that actress would be a great, person to play Rogue, potentially, if that was something she was interested in doing. She's incredibly funny, and I absolutely love her accent work in this movie. And overall, I just think that all of these characters do a really good job of feeling like they're from New York and feeling like they're young and reckless and they're hot and they think that they're on top of the world because they finally have this TV show. And then the one character who like actually understands what's going on and is kind of having to like break their hearts and be like, guys, they want you to fail. Like they genuinely are hoping that you lose, and you know, having to kind of like carry the weight and the burden of like everything that we're doing is going to fail and fall apart on us. And I'm glad we have these, you know, this time together, and this one show that we're going to put on tonight is going to be whatever it is, but this is going to be behind us before we know it. This is not going to last. And every single time they have those kind of like heartfelt moments, all the emotional beats, in my opinion, hit really well. And I really enjoyed this movie. Overall, like I said, not as funny as you'd expect it to be, but it was still really good. I like the story of it. I like the adrenaline of it. I think that a lot of these characters have a lot to lose and a lot to potentially gain. And I think that the way that they kind of create this weird dynamic, that they kind of become like a found family at the end of the movie, and they kind of like pull everything together very last second, is fantastic. And I think that it does a really good job. And particularly, one last thing that I want to give credit to for this movie is the original like big reason why people didn't think that SNL was going to do good was it was a bunch of really young people who were relatively unknown, right? Like there was a couple of stand-up comedians. There was this guy who used to be a musician or whatever, and now he's a playwright and he's done a lot of TV shows and stuff like that, and he's coming on as an actor, and people are like, it's a little weird, why is this guy acting? And it's just a bunch of people you wouldn't expect to be big name actors, and you wouldn't expect them to be like TV show hosts, TV personalities, and they're coming on and they immediately show that young people are entertaining. Young people know how to put on a show. Young people know how to bring the world joy and bring, different sides of entertainment that you've never seen before. And I really loved it. I thought that it was fantastic, and the fact that they casted relatively lesser known actors and actresses for this was fantastic. And then even like the bigger actors and actresses who are in this movie are not in the marketing as much, which I really, really liked, because William Dafoe is in this, right? And he's a big name actor, and some people would be like, oh my god, William Dafoe, I gotta go see this. And then they also have J.K. Simmons, which once again, there are a lot of people who would hear J.K. Simmons is in this movie and be like, I'm interested. So I like the fact that those people weren't as much of the focal points. They were really honing in on the fact that like this cast is a bunch of people who are young and hot and up and coming, and I really liked that. I thought that was great. But yeah, that being said, that was it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. I love and appreciate you guys so much for watching. And if you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bow, bow, bow.